The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
And welcome, wrestling fans, to the Ice Hour. This podcast is aimed at promoting the world of Division III college wrestling and is named for the late Hall of Fame coach Dave Eisenhower. Here we'll talk about topics and news that's relevant to those who compete for the love of the sport in Division III. The Ice Hour is sponsored by My House Sports Gear. Check out their line of wrestling gear and apparel at myhousesportsgear.com. Subscribe using your favorite podcasting app by going to matttalkonline.com/ice.
Episode 17 of the Ice Hour. We are going up to the glorious state of Massachusetts, home of what used to be known as Rock and Roll in Riverside. I'm not sure what it's called now. Maybe it's a Six Flags. To Springfield, Massachusetts, with Coach Jason Holder, head coach of the Springfield College Pride. Coach Holder, first off, before we even get to the big news about your program, welcome to the Ice Hour.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
So the news with the program, and you guys have had a couple benchmarks that you've hit in the last couple of years, one of which being over 100 seasons of collegiate wrestling at Springfield College. But most recently, you guys passed a mark that only a few college wrestling programs of any division have done, and that is 1,000 dual meet victories. And this made headlines. NCAA Wrestling put it out on Facebook and Twitter, and I was like, whoa, that's. I mean, there's a lot of history with this program, but 1,000 victories. When you're looking at that, I mean, did it dawn on you like this is something that this is big, real big for the school?
It's great for the school. It's great for our program, and like you said, it didn't really dawn on me. But then I look back at the amazing tradition that we have here, and as far as our how special it is to the alumni that we have, and how many special people have come out of this program. I think Doug Parker had 400 plus, and Coach Daryl Arroyo had 300 plus, and we're a small piece of a great tradition.
And the tradition is gone through not just Division III, but this program's been a Division II school prior to 1996. You've got Olympic champion Jeff Blatnick as the late Jeff Blatnick as an alum, and so the Springfield name has been on the tips of wrestling fans' tongues for a long time. What's it like to coach in that atmosphere?
Well, it's great. I mean, we have a great tradition. It's amazing to have. We hold an alumni event every 5 years, and our current student athletes come to this event as well. And it's amazing to hear the stories that the alumni share with our student athletes, and they're just amazed at the number of people that come through and what they've accomplished too. That didn't just stop after their wrestling careers. They've gone on to be successful individuals in their careers and whatever it is they might be doing. So it's great to see and how many special people have come through and for our student athletes, most importantly, to see this as well.
Yeah, before we get into the true history of the dynamic nature of this program, a little bit about yourself. You're from New Hampshire, and for folks that might look at that and be like, New Hampshire, Timberlane, okay, that's a powerhouse program up there. You should know that. They go to the Beast. You're from there. You wrestled for Carl Adams at BU. Then you got drawn into coaching. What first brought you into coaching? What made you want to be a wrestling coach?
Oh, I love the sport. It's taught me a lot of lessons, and certainly wanted to give back to others as far as those lessons that I've learned and to share them with other student athletes as well. Wrestling's, it's been in my father wrestled, my brother wrestled, my sister wrestled, and we kind of all, came through. And so when I finished up at Boston University, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I actually moved back up to New Hampshire, and I coached at Plymouth State for 4 years. And, 2 as the assistant, 2 as the head. And then I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I contacted Coach Arroyo, and I said, is there an opening for me to come down as a teaching fellow while I worked on my PhD? And I came down, and I still had no intention of being a full-time, head coach. I just wanted to get my PhD and look into higher education. And then Daryl left as I was, working on tying up the finishing ends. And when he left, I I moved in on it, and now it's a great situation, and certainly love being a teacher coach here at the school. I'm not only the wrestling coach. I'm actually teaching classes. I've taught 16 different classes here at Springfield College, but most recently teaching in the adventure education program and teaching psychosport in the phys ed and health education program.
Adventure education. I've got where does that go? Where would that take you in life? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, and I don't really want to go too far away and stray away from my background. But my father is he is a adventure. He does mental health, and he does adventure-based mental health. And my brother he has his clinical mental health license as well. And so I kind of grew up in a camp environment. We do camps up in Maine and the White Mountains of New Hampshire every summer with a variety of different populations of youth and adolescents. And so I grew up in that, doing the kayaking and the camping and the rock climbing and the whitewater rafting and that sort of mountain biking, all that sort of stuff throughout my childhood and right up through college. And so they have an adventure education program here at Springfield College, and I wasn't hired here for it, but I got into it, and they were like, "Wow, this is great!" So I've been doing high and low ropes course we call outdoor adventure, and then also teach the outdoor pursuits program here, which is a fantastic program where where kids go to East Campus and they camp with staff members, and we teach them a lot of different skills in the outdoors for 8 days.
Yeah, so my brain is naturally leading to wondering if we're ever going to see a college wrestling edition of Naked and Afraid.
Probably not.
Yeah, let's hope we don't see that. But yeah,
yeah, hopefully not. Yeah, that's not somewhere I'm gonna go. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're not. We've dropped Jason Holder and 4 of his wrestlers in the middle of the Serengeti. Let's see what they can do. Yeah, with just a headgear, a pocket knife. I don't know. That shows. We can go off the rails about that show.
I think everyone should go with a singlet. We like our jobs.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. As working there, and it's getting back into the coaching side of things. Coming from Boston University, New England wrestling BU was not kind of in its own Division I bubble with competition. BU teams would routinely wrestle the Division III, Division II schools, the American Internationals, right there in town, and then you've also got the Johnson and Wales, the other strong D3 program. So D3 wasn't a foreign concept growing up in New England and wrestling at BU. What was it about Plymouth State that first drew you to coaching there and say, this Division III thing is where I want to be?
Yeah, well, Plymouth State, I just went back up to New Hampshire. I wanted to go get out of it. I'm not really much of a city boy, as you can imagine. So I went up to New Hampshire and back up to Plymouth State, where my father actually went to Plymouth State, and he helped start the football program there, and he wrestled there. He was a 2-time New England champ for Plymouth State. So I decided, I'm going to go up there and help out with the program, and then ended up becoming the head coach eventually. And then so I enjoyed going back up and getting out of the city for a little while, and then and then decided after a couple of years that this might be something that I get into and could coach and teach. And so I moved on and wanted to get into higher education more, and that's where I found Daryl. I'd say they have a great, as far as our program goes here at Springfield College, it's the assistant coaching position is usually graduate students, and the graduate students come in and they get tuition and they get a stipend to work on their masters. And so they're usually in for 2, 3, maybe 4 years. I was 4 years with Daryl because I was working on a PhD program. So that's kind of how it works. So I figured I'm going to go for my PhD and I can work under Daryl, who's a fantastic coach. I mean, he's in the NWCA coaching, National Wrestling Hall of Fame and as a coach, and he's a fantastic guy to work under. I learned a lot of things from Daryl, so it was just a good situation for me to try to come in and help to further my education and my coaching experience.
So do you have that doctorate yet? Are you Dr. Jason Holder yet?
Long story, but I am working on my dissertation as we speak. I'm in the middle of data collection for my dissertation and should be finished with my doctorate by May of 17.
I spent a lot of time in college. People thought I was going to be a doctor, but it only took me 7 years to get my undergrad. But that story now was now. I was one more thing that jumped out at me about your time at Plymouth State. And now, was there a guy named Billy Wilbert on the team when you were there?
Yeah, Billy Wilbert, sure.
Okay, because he went to school with me at Old Dominion before he went back up north. So I'm sitting there remembering the timeline. I'm like, was Lunchbox up there when he was? So
And
you know
what's funny is that he said everyone called him Lunchbox. That's funny.
Because he came in as a 97 pounder and he never saw it again.
That's not true. Because Sean Wilbert, his brother, came up as well, and Shawnee went 285 and was actually a conference champ for me in 07. And Bill was down at 197. So Bill went back down to 97 so Sean could come in and wrestle 285.
So there definitely had to be a reason for it. But anyway, I could tell you Billy Wilbert stories from college for till we're blue in the face. But we're not talking about Lunchbox. We're not talking about Plymouth State right now. We're talking about Springfield College and the uniqueness of this program. You're just the third coach in the last 60 years. You talked about Daryl Arroyo, who was there for 21 years before you. Then a lot of the program is centered around a guy named Doug Parker, who coached there for 35 years. The impact of what Doug Parker has on Springfield College isn't just the school, but New England and Massachusetts wrestling in general. What is it like with that presence, knowing that the Doug Parker name really still surrounds the program?
Oh, it's incredible to listen to our alum who come back and talk about Doug Parker stories. And not only that, listen to Doug Parker come back. He came back last year. We celebrated at the regional tournament Doug Parker's 90th birthday. He turned 90 in February, and he's going to be 91 in this coming February. And just the stories that he has, he shares with us are amazing. He comes back and, once in a while, he comes back for his annual Doug Parker Invitational, which is an annual tournament we run here in November. Comes back and watches some wrestling, and he's just a special person, not only in the wrestling world but around the Springfield College campus. We have professors here that went to Springfield College who talk about how special it was to have Doug Parker as a professor here in the PE program. And everyone's learned a lot from Doug Parker. He's just phenomenal. And I could go on about Doug Parker stories forever. Just some of the ones that I've heard from the alumni. I didn't have the privilege to have Doug Parker as a coach or be underneath him as an assistant, but at the same time, he's impacted a lot of people around the Springfield College community for sure.
And even at 90 years old, how much can you extract from his knowledge that'll help you on your day-to-day job? And when you have a chance to sit down, how much can you pull from him based on that's a long time to be coaching, and it's a long, great life to have basically accrued that much information. I mean, when you get a chance to pick his brain, I mean, is there stuff you're like, wow, that's something I need to introduce to my program?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I actually I heard a story from an alum, Bill Hillman, a couple days ago before we wrestled Norwich, and Bill Hillman came in and talked about how Doug Parker used to come down to the wrestling or the locker room before the meets, and he would say, we're wrestling something like Penn State or some really, really good team. They used to wrestle a lot of Division I programs and Lehigh and that sort of stuff, and he said that I want to pray for Penn State that they're at their best today, because we want to wrestle them at their best. And Billy Holman was saying, "Oh man, I could use a sick day for them. If that's, I don't mind if they're feeling at 80% today. That would be okay with me. So they don't really beat us up. But Coach Parker wanted to beat the best teams at their best, or else it didn't really count. And that was something that's kind of neat. And I've shared that a little bit with our team as well. We don't want any breaks. We want to beat our opponents, when they're at their best.
As we look at, you talked about Coach Parker and then Coach Roy at Springfield before moving to Division III. They were a strong Division II program, and we've mentioned Blatnick. And there have been 4 Division I All-Americans back in the day where you would move on into the Division I championships. And that dynamic, how much does that celebrate? There doesn't seem to be a split in terms of the programs. Like, yeah, we've got, you say we've got 70-something All-Americans. It's not like, well, we got 39 Division II and 28 Division. There's no split there. There seems to be a real synergy. And how do the alumni really react to that? And the fact that, some of them are wrestling in an era where Division II, had some really power programs and you said they were competing against the Penn States and the BUs and the strong teams, the Lehighs out east. And how does the alumni work with the Division II, Division III dynamic that this program has?
I think that you said it. There's some synergy in it. I don't think there's really any. They look at it as equal. As anything, as any of them. They're all NCAA All-Americans, and and I think Division III has become really, really tough in the last. Certainly in the last 10 years or however long I've been. 12, 15 years I've been coaching. So they're getting really, really competitive, and Division II back in the day is very competitive as well. We have some Division II guys I know, and that I've heard some outstanding stories about. One is Frank Perano and just how tough he was, and another guy is Rick Monroe was a 4-time All-American. It's pretty amazing. And Nick Perillo was actually in the All-Star Classic. He was one of the last guys in the All-Star Classic, and then I believe Blatnick was in it as well. So there's the divide. There's not really a divide. We're competing as hard as we can in the division that we're in. We don't really have too much control over that as far as a wrestling program. I can say that, our athletic department went to Division 3, but we want to compete in Division 1 or 2. We can go and compete against Division 1 and 2 teams, and we do every year. We see Strasburg at our tournament. We see AIC, and last year we wrestled Buffalo, and so it's and we've wrestled BU in the past, but we are where we are as far as the division they put us in. We're going to compete as hard as we can.
Some of these new Division III schools that are popping up, we'll look at like Ferrum College in Virginia, Greensboro College in North Carolina, Huntington down in Alabama. They're in places where there's not a whole lot of Division III competition. You look at where Springfield College is situated, there is a slew of college wrestling opportunities in New England at the Division II and Division III levels. And, there's a couple with the Ivy Leagues at the Division I level, but this has got to make recruiting very difficult from an area where, you're not having the D1s really come in and try to pick the best talent. New England's kind of sitting out there as, every now and then you've got a Robert Hamlin who goes to a Lehigh, but for the most part, most of the talent is you've got an opportunity to pick it up, but there's so many programs to contend with. How does recruiting work for you at Springfield?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Recruiting is not easy in anywhere in New England, for sure. And we just work with the programs that we have. We have very, very strong programs, academic programs in mostly, I would say, the health sciences and in the physical education. Very, very strong programs. And we have other programs that are now, gaining more and more recognition, which is just a good thing for our students, and certainly helps with our recruiting. So what we'll do is we'll look at those individuals that want one of our stronger programs, and we go after them hard, because we know that Springfield College is a great fit for them and their career goals as well. And I think that's important. It's important to look out, not just say, hey, oh, you want engineering? Well, we have mathematics. Why don't you come here? No, I'm going to look at and look at the individual. If they have engineering, then I'll recommend that they don't look at Springfield College, because that's not what we have. That's not what, it's just not one of our programs. So we have to try to find that the individual recruit, it matches what we have and what we can offer them academically, and also what they're looking at. We're a small school. We get a lot of attention from our professors, and then most of our coaches on campus are also professors, so they're going to get a lot of attention. And the fact that us as coaches are in the athletic department are communicating all the time with the other faculty on campus, they're going to get a lot of attention, and at the same time, they're going to help them set them up for success as well, because we know that, okay, if they're not doing well, they're struggling academically, I'm going to hear it usually before my student athlete hears it. and we can try to get ahead of it before they get behind and ultimately get failed out of school or whatever. I don't think they have that anywhere or in too many other schools where you have coaches working as full-time faculty members in academic programs as well.
Yeah, I don't think people go to the University of Iowa and are expecting to hear, Tom Brand, senior lecturer of history / wrestling coach. I mean, you see that,
Right.
you see that in Division III everywhere, and that's definitely a unique thing, and that seems to be very beneficial, and from an outsider's viewpoint for the student athlete for the reasons you talked on. But what you have an example of where an assistant coach from other schools like, hey, he kind of helped me save a kid because our faculty is so in tune with each other because they're coaches from other sports who care. The Jeff Riccio 100 Years video that he did for your program talked about, one of the wrestlers like, the assistant baseball coach was one of my professors. And, there's got to be kind of a look out for one another type of attitude with the faculty here too, it seems.
Absolutely. I could tell you last semester, I received first of all, we held a higher than a 3.0 GPA. I think it was a 3.1 last semester as a wrestling team, which is pretty phenomenal. And that's not just where you get the starters and put them there. It's the whole team. We had 40 something on the roster and holding above a 3.0 GPA. I received a lot of emails or calls from other professors from other departments. It's not just phys ed or just the coaches contacting us. There's other people that are saying, hey, I'm concerned about so-and-so, and, what can we do about this person? And, he's struggling here. And we have a lot of support, not only, as a faculty, but we have an academic success center where I'm pretty well tied there, and I can actually speak to, some of the people from the academic success center and send our student athletes over there, and then let them know, hey, you got to use these people and use the resources that we offer here on campus in order to see some success. One kid who was really, really stressed last semester, he went to the academic success center at the end. He was doing that finals or the final week pinch, had a couple of papers looked over, and he's like, man, and he's a freshman. He's like, why didn't I use that all semester? He pulled his grade up, quite significantly in the last couple of weeks because he went over and he took that extra effort to use the academic success center and use those resources, and it helped them out and help them, be successful. And that's something we try to teach our guys, that you don't get here alone. When you got to Springfield College, you had help from your coaches, you had help from your teammates, you had help from your parents, you had help from your teachers. You're not going to get out of here without seeking help. And in life, you have to have people that you can lean on, in order to be successful. So that's what we're trying to teach our student athletes as well. Lean on each other. Obviously, do your own. You work hard as an individual, but don't be afraid to seek help from others as well.
A lot of people to lean on, and the reason I will say that this is kind of an unnatural segue, but I'm going to weave it into the history of the program. This is one of the oldest programs in the country, so there's obviously a lot of people that you can lean on. You talked about leaning on Doug Parker as a coach, Dale Arroyo. 100 plus years. This is one of the oldest programs in the country, regardless of division, probably the oldest current Division III program. 100 years is a milestone. I mean, we see that Penn and Columbia are arguing over who the oldest college wrestling program is, and that's only about 5 or 6 years older than Springfield College. What is your knowledge of the history and the century of wrestling at Springfield? How much do you really celebrate that fact?
My knowledge of just listening to the alums and their stories and all that stuff, but I can tell you that we've increased as far as certainly the facilities, the support that we receive from the athletics department, and that sort of stuff. I remember hearing Doug Parker talking about how, and this was probably obviously not something that anyone would do now at this day and age, but he's like, well, back in the day, drove out to the Midwest. He goes, we didn't have any money. So he threw his team that qualified for nationals in the back of a box truck and drove out to the Midwest in the middle of March. So just the differences of support that we received. The first team, we have a picture of the first team from 1950, and it was a team of kids who were serving as, he's the 133 pounder and the manager, the 141 pounder and the coach, and it was like they all played dual roles. It was just a different time back then, and it's kind of funny now. Like, we're traveling on buses, we have a very, very nice wrestling room and facilities and support staff like athletic trainers and the strength and conditioning program, and we have that that support staff that really helps us to excel, and that's something that we have that they didn't have back then, and it's just amazing that they were. Sometimes when you think about it, wow, they were working hard, and they were trying to do as best they could with what they had. I think that teaching our younger generation that it's not some of it is instant gratification in generation where they want, and realizing that you can do a lot. You could do a lot with a very little. So we're very fortunate to have what we have, but at the same time, you still have to work hard and get it done, even if you don't have this stuff.
What is the relevance of the program within the community? You guys host well, not you specifically, but the 4 college wrestling programs within the city of Springfield, Massachusetts. That's Springfield College, American International, which is Division II, Western New England University, which is Division III, and Springfield Tech, which is a junior college. You guys all host rotate on who hosts the city championship, as you guys call it. But what's the presence and relevance of Springfield College wrestling within Springfield, Massachusetts?
It's a pretty, like you said, it's four different programs right in the city. So that's a kind of nice little event, and something that we started, I guess, about 10 years ago. We're doing the city championships, and it's something we should celebrate. It's almost like a bragging rights within the city, and they get they're competing for a cup, and it doesn't really. I think that sometimes it doesn't resonate with our student athletes, because they're like, well, they're not in our division. Western New England isn't in our division, but stick in AIC, it doesn't really matter. But then I think when we explain that, well, this is kind of a bragging rights for our city, and it does matter. It is a big thing, and there are years where our guys really get up for it, and then there are years where they haven't been. We haven't done a good enough job of promoting it, but it's something that we certainly should do more of as far as getting the excitement up, because not only getting the excitement up between the 4 teams, but trying to generate more of a crowd, generate more of a interest from the high schools around. That's something that we're working on doing, and I've spoken with Coach Sugarmeyer about it, and certainly Coach Hassenfuss is now in his first year at AIC. We've spoken about that as well, and Coach Nieves. So something we're working on doing certainly is generating some interest with our student athletes. Generate interest with our local high schools to come and check it out.
When you look at your schedule each year, and you circle the city championship because those are the schools within basically a bicycling distance, depending on weather. But each year, when I'm curious on rivalries when it comes to Springfield College, when you set your schedule, is there a team that you're sitting there going, we want this one, we circle this match, this dual meet, home or away, on our schedule each year? What's the team you guys get amped up to wrestle the most?
Oh, I don't know. I want to wrestle them all. We're very competitive. We want to win, and sometimes it doesn't. Some years, in the past couple of years, we've been down a little bit. And a couple of years before that, we were really up, top 8 in the country. So, regardless, we want to go out and wrestle whoever and beat whoever and wrestle the hardest we can, in order to perform well. And that's something I really look at. I think in the last couple of years, certainly I think, you look at Roger Williams and Johnson and Wales, and it kind of bounces around. We were up, and Jay was up, and Roger Williams. Williams has had some great programs. Wesley and Springfield go back and forth and have had some great programs. There's a lot of competition. PC&J in Springfield have some good competitions, and so we get up for all of those types of schools that are in Division III. So I can't. I don't think WPI is another one. There's a lot of teams that I like to beat. and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But the love of that competition and getting after it is I think what we're all excited to do.
You just rattle off a bunch of schools where Division III people know them, New England wrestling fans know them, but outside of the junkies, and I'm going to include myself in this, that actually know where Springfield College is, their mascot, that what division they are, and that they know WPI. A lot of people don't know these programs. What does it mean to kind of compete in Division III and try to push that message? Be look, there are a lot of opportunities here that don't center around the Big 10, the Big 12. There are options, and there's good wrestling here. You can watch this. You can you don't need to just sit there as like, oh, I'm not going to watch wrestling unless it's good. Go down to your local college, because if you can't turn your head in New England without running into a Division III college with wrestling. So the opportunities are there. So
this weekend we have the New England Wrestling Association Dual Meet Championships. You want to see some great wrestling? Go down and check it out. That's I could tell you right now, those are some competitive duels. We've been on top in the last couple of years. Roger Williams has been on top. Johnson Wales has always been up there. It is good competitive wrestling, and we're getting a lot of great individuals, great recruits from a lot of different areas, and trying to work in our best to develop them. And it's been an incredible dual meet tournament to watch in the last couple of years, and it's come down to the wire in a lot of those top bouts, whether it's third, fourth, or first, second. There's been some wars out there in the dual meet championships, that's for sure, and it's exciting. Another thing, the last couple of years we've started to do the mat light events, and we did Friday Night Lights. We had Devin Biscata, who was a national champ for us in 2013. A few years ago, we had the first night we started it was, I believe it was against Wesleyan, and we did a Friday Night Light event against Wesleyan, and it had a ring ceremony, a national championship ring ceremony, and brought Devin up, and they presented Devin his national championship ring, and that was a pretty cool event. This year we actually wrestled Roger Williams at the under the lights in December. That was an exciting event. Came right down to heavyweight. We were going back and forth. We actually had the lead, and going into 97, and then came down to heavyweight. Whoever was going to win that match was going to win the duel, and it was a good, exciting event. We had a lot of people, a lot of fans, music, and a lot of fun. So those are some really, really great competitive events that we like to host, and I think the sport needs. It needs to have those exciting events that are going to draw a crowd.
Another thing you say, what things that the sport needs, and I think I see this more from the New England Division III schools than I do the schools out in the Midwest, but they do exist in Division III, rarely in Division II, almost never in Division I, is if you're pulling up the results or box scores up on Track Wrestling or the sports information releases, you'll see the 10 matches. But sometimes you'll see 5 to 10 exhibition bouts where you're getting guys in matches, basically, essentially, if you were to equate it to a high school bill, like a JV match. Well, you're getting your guys involved, and this seems to be systematic across the New England schools, very much so. And there's even a futures tournament that you guys hold, basically, essentially, for those who are unfamiliar, for the non-starters,
right.
to keep you guys involved. Those two dynamics, that's got to really help with athlete retention, and of course bringing in those athletes, because it's non-scholarship, and the administration's got to like that, because those are tuition dollars, and you're keeping those kids engaged the entire season.
Sure, our guys want to compete, and what if you're going and you're just wrestling 10 varsity matches and then getting out of there, it's not helping those other kids in the room to develop, and by getting them opportunities to get matches, that's what kids want. It's why they're here. They're here to compete. And what I explained to my guys, we actually had a thing with the futures tournament a few years where we had our guys who didn't want to wrestle in the futures because of this or that, because it's JV. And I'm like, well, there's very, very, very good wrestlers wrestling in that futures tournament. And a matter of fact, most of our All-Americans in recent years were, including Devin Biscata, who's a national champ, wrestled in the futures tournament. Dylan Foley, who's my assistant coach right now, was an All-American in 2014, wrestled in the futures tournament. Derek Longo, futures tournament champ. Derek Adams, fourth in the country, futures tournament. So I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, and some of them didn't win the futures, but they go out and be All-Americans, become All-Americans eventually. It's a competitive tournament. And what I try to explain to my guys, that although you may not be the guy representing out in the mat in one particular dual meet, to get you a match is important for your development overall. And it's not like you're going to be faced against someone who's not a good wrestler. We had a kid this weekend who wrestled down at the Lycoming duels, and he wrestled he could be a potential starter, and he wrestled another kid from another school who was I think he was a New York State champ or state placer for sure. And it was a war. And I think that sometimes they don't get up for it like they should be getting up for it, because they think, oh, well, it's just a JV match. And we try to, I think our whole attitude as a wrestling coaches association in New England has been to scrap the attitude that, oh, it's just a JV match, and put a lot of emphasis on, no matter what match it is, you get up for it and get ready for it, because it does count. It's something that's important. It's going to help you prepare yourself for a match that might be a regional championship match or something like that. Like that, they have to be up for every match.
Yeah, and the way I understand, those matches do count officially on the record. They're not part of the dual meet, but say hypothetically you have a guy wrestling in a bunch of exhibition matches, your starter goes out. This guy's now the starter. He's got enough maybe seeding criteria to draw a decent seed at the regional because those matches actually count. Is that correct?
Sure. Oh, yeah, they do count. Yeah, they do count for seeding, and they count for win-loss record. And there's a lot of kids, like I said, we have a pretty high GPA, team GPA, and a lot of those kids who maybe not be starters have still potential to become Scholar All-Americans. And Scholar All-American is you get a 3.2 GPA and win 2/3 of your matches, you earn a Scholar All-American status. And so that's something that our kids, that's a big goal for a lot of our student athletes here at Springfield College, is to become Scholar All-American. And I explained to them, I explained to my student athletes and recruits coming in that an employer who's interviewing you for a job, he's gonna look more, probably value that Scholar All-American more than he will an All-American. We know how hard it is to become an All-American, but not everyone does. If they're interviewing you for a job and they look at a Scholar All-American, that means that you could be successful and multitask as well. Could be successful in the classroom and successful on the wrestling mat.
Another thing, too, that I think that really helps you guys with this is the proximity, because I would assume that most drives are within 3 hours. Probably the bigger ones are within 3 hours. So it's not like, you look at, it's like, well, some of these schools out in the Midwest, well, we got a 6-hour drive. We can't afford to take, 5-6 extra guys on every trip. For the New England schools, you guys are you using the geography to your benefit for that matches. I'm assuming the guys just hop in the vans or the bus and, all right, we're bringing 7 of you this match.
Yeah. I think at times that helps. I've really looked into that. A lot of the places we try it, we don't want to go and see the New England schools, all the other New England schools, 5, 6, 7, 8 times throughout the course of the season. We try to get out, and our schedule. If you look at our schedule this year, we've been out in New York. We went down to Messiah, wrestled in the Petropus tournament, which is a good, very competitive tournament. We wrestled Roger Williams in a duel. Then we went out to Indiana and wrestled, in the national duels. And the very next weekend, we wrestled at Lycoming. So it's down in Pennsylvania again. So we've gone out there as much as we stay within New England. We try to wrestle a very competitive schedule. It's just going to help it helps in multiple ways, but you want to see those teams that you're going to see at the national tournament, towards the end of the year. And so that's something that we really try to do, is get our guys out there and exposed to competition around the country. And then as well as coming and using, seeing those local teams. And we do see the local teams in the dual meets usually the second half of the season. We're going to see a lot of the guys like the WPI, which is an hour away. Western New England, we see Wesleyan, which is 45 minutes away. And, so we're going to see those teams, but it's not, I suppose we use it to our advantage, but I hadn't really thought about that.
All right, the one question I usually am asking this season to all Division III coaches, whether it be on this show, whether it be on Short Time, whether it be on Jeff Brees' Buena Vista program, is our regionalization quandary that we're in within Division III. What's your take on the current state of Division III qualifications? Of course, New England, you're kind of locked into where you're going to be geographically, and they're adding schools up there left and right. So you're kind of locked into a geography. But what is your position on the current alignment within Division III wrestling, and should it be changed, or are we just we're in a good spot? So curious on your take here.
Well, you say geography and you say regionalization. That's what it should be, and it's not that right now. I mean, you want me to get into it? I could get into it for even longer than an hour, so I don't really want to get into
well,
it.
let's get the soon to be Dr. Cliff Notes version.
Right. All right. So you look at the numbers of the regions, and there's certainly, it's not fair. It's not equal. It certainly puts us at a disadvantage at 19. And there's some stuff going around. I don't know how, it's some shady stuff. So I'll stay out of it. But the regionalization should be regional, right? You say it's based on geography, and that's what it should be. But it's not right now. When you have Wisconsin teams driving past other Wisconsin teams to get the people in their geographical region to wrestle, but then there's another Wisconsin team smack dab in the middle that is closer, but they're in an easier division. It's not really I don't think they're going about it, as a geographical region, and when they put those power rankings in, that's whatever. I think
I get what you're saying here. I think you're echoing
right?
what a lot of the Eastern coaches have kind of pointed out. But one thing I want to point out in terms of maybe
here's the thing: you look at 80 votes, right, or is it 80% of the Division III coaches were, voted, okay, or voted in changing, going to the newer regionalization that we all came up with last spring. 80%. That's a pretty big number. And to say, yeah, that's great. Thanks why do you have us vote then? That doesn't make sense.
Well, to get to maybe something that's a little more, obviously it's a divisive topic for many within, the various geographical points, but what do you think your solution would be, or if you had a perfect world when we add programs? So this is where we're starting to, we're adding more programs in Division III each year. I think a dozen new programs are slated to start within this year or the next year, just in Division III alone. And they're coming into regions where there are already a lot of teams. We saw Castleton added. That's up in the New England region. We're seeing, Hampton, Sydney, and Ferrum, and Greensboro in that region. They're going to pull into the
New
east.
England College. New
England essentially replaced Daniel Webster in that respect. But we're seeing, they're coming in, and you've got to shift to the shift. Do you have an idea in place? It's like, okay, when a new team comes in, how should they be treated, and how many years should go by between the regionals get jumbled again?
Well, I think it was originally 4, correct?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking you guys, because I know sometimes I see 2, sometimes I see 4, depending on
but it's also
legislation.
Inconsistent. Whereas, I think Oneonta was Oswego was in our region for 2, and then they were bounced out. Whereas it's not consistent. Where they say, the other teams were in there, and we passed our 4, and now they're still in. So I kind of. It's got to be consistent, but I don't know. I don't know the answer as far as whether it should be 2 or whether it should be 4. But maybe the word we got is that it was going to be no more than 18 in our region, without someone else. And then when it became more than 18, then someone else would bounce out and be relocated. So I don't really have an answer to that. I think we all spoke as a Northeast region, and have kind of some ideas bouncing around, but that's really not our. I think we're probably going to talk about that a little bit more at the convention and everything.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I think the biggest one I saw was that made me really go, what is that? The fact that King's College and Wilkes University are
Yeah,
a mile
that's
apart.
That's ridiculous.
They are.
Ridiculous.
I'm Google mapping this right now. 0.7 miles via North River Street. It's a 3-minute drive, or it is a 14-minute walk because you got to go around the block. They are in different regions. That's where I'm just going to mic drop on this one. That's the one thing that says we need a little bit of a shift here, at least on the Division III side. I'm not playing a politics game. I'm just saying King's College and Wilkes University are less than a mile apart. They are in different qualifying regions.
That's ridiculous.
I didn't even check to see where
agree.
Scranton is off the top. I see Scranton. Where are they? They're in the Mideast too. It looks like. Yeah. Okay. So at least 2 of the 3 are in the same region. Anyway, oh man, yeah, we could go on this one, like you said, for another hour or so.
Yeah, I could go for a long time, and it, I don't want to go into, like you said, the politician mode and get all crazy on it. And I just know that I'm part of that 80% that voted to realign. That's it. That's where I can say, and I'll leave it at that.
Finishing up with Coach Jason Holder here, Springfield College. They've got the New England Duels in Providence this weekend. Big dual meet event. It's going to shake up the rankings. You're going to see some craziness here. But over 100 years of wrestling, 1,000 dual meet victories. You're just the third coach in the last 60-something years. I mean, there's a lot to take in. So for the wrestling community that's checking this out and they need to pay attention, first of all, I got to give 2 shout-outs before I do anything else. One, Frank Popolizio is a former Springfield College wrestler. He does a great job with the Journeyman Club up there, has brought me and Brian Hazard to announce his events. And 2, our Team Virginia trainer in Fargo, Ed Metzger. He has been part of the Team Virginia staff. He's a Springfield College alum, too. So those are 2 guys I know that have Springfield ties. And, of course, I've played Silver Strike Bowling and had dirty martinis with the late Jeff Blatnick at the Bison Turf in Fargo. So those are a couple Springfield guys I want to throw out there. Yeah,
there's a lot of them out there. I'll tell you what, it's quite a web of very successful and great people who are Springfield alumni out there. And, I think that certainly speak in positive ways to our program, and they help that they help the experience of our student athletes here.
All right, Jason, last word. Give me the sales pitch for Springfield College.
I think, spirit, mind, body, and we have a very successful program and a great history, and check us out. I think we're a school that certainly people should keep on their radar.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.